Kent Adams here, and welcome to Experts at EWU. And I say this often, it's fun to have some of these professors and department heads and others in because I've learned a lot about our local university here. And it's easy to be a critic of this or that or whatever, but sometimes we don't know the whole story, so we're going to talk about that today. And I'm pleased to have Jim Headley. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Kent,
there's some hope for the old guy, right? Jim, you've been there. You told me before we went on, you've been there 24 years, coming up next month in a few weeks, right?
Yes, Kent, that's right.
Give me a little background, because obviously it isn't just EWU in your background. And so then we'll get into the topic of environment and so forth.
Sure. Well, Kent, first of all, thank you for having me here today. It's great to be here, and
Well, thank you for coming.
Great. Yes.
And we can go maskless here too.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to talk with you in person
Yeah.
and talk about our department, political science and public policy,
Okay.
as well as the various programs within it, which,
Yes.
and there's a number of those. But I'll get to those. You had asked about my background
Yeah.
a little bit. And obviously, I've been at Eastern for a long time, 24 years, teaching largely law classes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my background is really primarily law, and I actually still have an active law
Certificate?
yes,
degree, yeah.
I keep my
JD?
JD up to date and so forth. I keep my legal credentials up to date.
Oh, do you?
I do. But prior to teaching, I was a prosecutor for a little while in the Tri-Cities.
Oh, sure.
And then actually I was a junior staff member on Tom Foley's staff as well.
I used to interview Tom quite often over the years, and while we differed politically, it was an era when he was really a Democrat, and he would give me a bad time because it was radio, and I would have him on, and I'd ask him a question, and I knew I was going to get the line, right, the talking point, and he'd look at me and wink, and I go, I'd ask again, but what a great guy, and I got a chance to say goodbye at a thing we did downtown at the Bing Crosby Theater years ago when he was on hospice care and all that.
Oh,
But I
right,
respect
right.
the guy. He's a good guy.
Right. It was a pleasure and an honor to work for him.
Yeah.
And boy, things have changed. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there.
Okay, yes.
On that topic. So that's basically my background, though. A little bit of politics and much more in law. And then I've been teaching law at Eastern for a long time.
Okay.
With my criminal law background, I teach a lot of criminal law and criminal procedure classes, a lot of pre-law classes.
Okay.
And then over the past few years, I've been department chair as well, so head of a
Oh,
department.
wow, good.
And we've undergone a lot of change. Eastern's undergone a lot of change over the last, say, 3-4 years.
And you do out there in the pre-law, the 3-year with GU too, don't you?
Yeah, I helped. I was one of the people that helped
design
negotiate the 3+3 agreement that we
Great.
have with Gonzaga School of Law. And we have a great working relationship with Gonzaga
Yes.
School of Law and Dean Rooksby, and we send a number of Eastern grads, both political science and other grads, to Gonzaga School of Law and other law schools as well.
Right,
So,
right, good.
yeah, but actually political science and pre-law, that's just a piece of our larger department now.
Yeah, what all is in your department? Because
Yeah.
I have the feeling that we're going to be here for an hour just talking about that.
Well, 4 things really.
Okay.
So political science,
Okay.
international affairs,
Okay.
public administration,
Okay.
and urban and regional planning. So those are the 4
All the
main
hot
pieces.
topics.
All the hot ones.
Really?
Yes, and they combine really well, actually, to confront the topic of, say, climate change, global warming.
Right.
And that's we were able to combine these pieces and faculty within these programs to develop a new curriculum, a new degree for environmental policy and planning.
Yes.
With the whole intent to really tackle climate change and global warming.
And where things are going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but from a policy perspective.
Okay.
The science is clear, and it's not good. In fact, it's pretty bleak
Okay.
regarding where the Earth is going with the climate and so
Okay.
forth. But it's not too late yet to change things and to have hopefully a sustainable environment in this planet for future generations.
Right.
But policy is going to have to drive the change.
Okay.
The science can't drive the change.
Okay.
It directs it, but it can't drive it. So governments really need policy to direct policy
So
regarding
there's a lot
climate
of work
change.
ahead.
Yeah, there is. There is. But I think it begins with a piece of that anyway, begins with education
Yeah.
and like this new degree in environmental policy and planning.
Okay, so where are those students coming from, and what do they want? What do they want to go after they get their degree?
Great question, thank you. And many of these students likely would come from an interest in political science and social science in general.
Right.
And they may be interested in the urban planning aspect as well. So building a sustainable community.
Yes.
And studying what a sustainable community looks like.
Sure.
So they can actually go out and work on building those sustainable communities.
Okay.
So both social sciences as well as the urban and regional planning areas are where students would be coming from. And then, this degree I'm talking about right now, the bachelor's degree in urban and regional, the bachelor's degree in environmental policy and planning could feed very nicely into a number of graduate programs.
Okay.
For example, within our department as well, we have an a master's degree in urban and regional planning.
Okay.
So students, if they like that aspect, the planning of local communities
They
and so
can go
forth,
right there.
they can. And Dr. Patrick Jones, I'm guessing you probably
I know
interviewed
of him. I know him.
Okay, the director of the Economic and Policy Institute at Eastern,
Right.
he recently did a study that showed that there was a high demand in Washington State for graduates of the Urban and Regional Planning Program,
Okay.
as well as say compliance officers, so
Sure.
graduates of the MPA, the Masters in Public Administration Program, which is also in our department. So there's graduate options that could be logical outcomes
Right.
from this environmental policy and planning major, as well as it could be a great major for, for those thinking of going to law school as well.
Yes. Yes.
So there's at least 3 great options.
Yeah. You didn't get my grandson as the 3-in-3 program.
Oh.
He was accepted out there at Eastern.
Okay.
But then got accepted by some university, GU, you've heard of them?
I have.
And he's one of the managers of the men's basketball. So I don't think he's going to go back out, but he's looking at all kinds of things and what the future is. I mean, so I've got it in my own family
Right.
of what's coming down the road. And I think that's important. Isn't that why we have college and universities?
Absolutely.
Is to explore things.
Absolutely. And to hopefully help find solutions to problems.
Yes, yes.
And to work on those.
Yes.
And really, there's no bigger problem facing humanity
Right.
than climate change and global warming.
Right.
And it's going to take everybody redirecting and focusing on solving that issue from a number of different perspectives.
Right.
And so there's room for everybody, and there's hope. The science again is
Because you hear all the negative out there. And
the science is disturbing to say the least.
Okay.
But there's definitely hope. There's a chance, and if we can get environmental policy and planning right as a community on every scale, we can change things, and we can save the environment, and it's such an important thing.
And we've got to do it in a way that it doesn't destroy jobs too. But you're talking about studies that lead into jobs
Absolutely.
that can help, but also solve the problem so we don't get rid of maybe some of the traditional jobs, but they're changed with what's coming down the line, right?
Absolutely. And I think there's a number of examples of I call it a greening of the economy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So taking traditional jobs, occupations, as well as community services, however one we want to look at it, and make them green. And by that, I mean, I think Bill Gates, he wrote a book recently on climate change that, in my personal opinion, is fantastic. And he lays out a broad plan of an approach for tackling climate change. And his basic idea is, number one, there's a goal of becoming worldwide carbon-free by 2050. So I think setting that goal is important.
Right.
And reaching
We
that.
don't achieve goals if we don't set them.
No, exactly.
You know?
But then transforming the economy so it can be green and carbon free. So I think an example might be Spokane going to use electric buses, for example. And so moving away from carbon sources of emissions like buses, diesel buses or whatever, to electric buses. So the greening of everything in a hopefully a less carbon or a carbon-free way is it's the goal.
I heard something the other day that I hadn't really thought of it this way, and they talked about AI.
Yes.
People complaining, well, I'm in these $14 or $15 an hour job and blah, 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 and they're repetitive and all the negatives that we know we've all done to start our careers, okay? But that many of those jobs can be replaced by artificial intelligence, and that maybe we can move people when they come out of trade school or college or university into more creative things out there, that the job market will be better in the future too. So it's not all negative. There's some real positive things happening.
Absolutely. So you're right. And then it's not just replacing basically existing jobs with green versions of those. It also creates new jobs and creating this new industry.
Yeah.
All important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopeful. It's all hopeful.
Tell me about, you've had 24 years, some changes in disciplines that you've been teaching and so forth. You obviously have a background between the law and everything else going on. What's different about today's students? Good or bad?
That's a tough question. And I hesitate to answer in that the biggest change, in my opinion, has been with the pandemic.
Yes, that's legit.
Yeah, no, the pandemic has changed everything. And I think it's made some things harder and worse.
Yes.
And it's made some things better. And, it's sort of like the glass is half empty, half full, depending on how one might look at it. But an example might be prior to the pandemic, I think I and many professors didn't use necessarily much technology in the classroom.
I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Zoom, right? Zoom's become a verb, right? So and that's both a good and a bad thing. It's enabled, just another quick example.
But we accept it as an alternative.
Well, but it's actually even, it's been helpful in many ways.
Yes.
At least as far as like with faculty in my department, for example. We have 13 faculty in all these different programs. And some of them are in the campus in Cheney, and some are in the campus at the Catalyst Building in downtown Spokane.
Right. Some are working from home at times.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so to have a meeting via Zoom that we might not be able to have one otherwise. So it's facilitated operations in a number of ways, meeting with faculty, staff, students, members of the public, but certainly, with students as well.
Yeah.
But it also, with students, I think there's a little bit of something that's lost if there's not that personal interaction like we have right now.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
Do you miss that as a professor?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew the answer before I asked it, but I wanted you to say it. Yeah.
I have just one class at the moment with my administrative duties, but then in the spring I've got 3 classes coming up, and I'm really looking forward to those.
Yes.
Those should be face to face.
Yes. Good.
Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since actually. Given the way things have worked with the pandemic and everything, it's been almost 2 years since I was in the classroom physically.
Wow.
And so it's really good to be back, and I'm really looking forward to being back, I'd say, with all those classes in the spring.
Good. Yeah, and I know EWU, because we've had David May on and so forth, one of the leading universities around the country even to go remote and so forth as a necessary evil, if you will. But look at what you've been able to do the last couple of years, and it could have been at the other end, close things down for a couple of years and just give it up.
Yeah.
And then you've made a major negative impact on the future of young people.
Right. And unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Right.
And I credit President May, and he's a colleague and friend. He's from my department.
I was going to say, yes.
We know each other very well. We've worked together on many things. So I'm appreciative of his support broadly. And I think, these were unprecedented times and challenges for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think he helped lead the university with a great, quick online response to the
Yes.
pandemic. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're able to continue with our mission to educate and work with students, and that's why faculty are there, is to work
Yeah.
with the students. And
Yes.
we're able to do that.
Yes, yes. But you've got a lot of innovative programs on campus out there.
Yes.
And even downtown at the Catalyst Building and so forth. And I'm continued to be amazed. The one thing I've learned, if you were to ask me to put it in a real short message, is that there's so much collaboration going on at Eastern.
Yes.
In so many ways that I don't think even existed 2 or 3 years ago. And things, I mean, look at just what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, Kent, I'm so glad you bring that up. The
Yeah.
collaboration.
Across departments,
Absolutely, absolutely, and also within our department. And again, our department went through 2 mergers over the past 3 years. So public administration joined us a few years ago.
Yes.
Then urban and regional planning joined us officially this last July. But we worked together unofficially for well over a year before that,
Right.
like developing this new major in environmental policy and planning. That truly was a collaboration across these various programs and from these different experts in different fields. It was a wonderful thing to see happen, and it's not easy
Yeah.
to develop a new degree. And
No.
It was really important, and we got it done. Professor Vandana Asthana really led the charge on this, and led the faculty in developing this program. Fun fact, she has 2 PhDs. She has one in political science and one in environmental security. So she was the perfect person to head up this new, the development of the new degree in environmental policy and planning.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. Coming from the business community and everything else, you kind of look, well, that's a university, that's a college, we all know about those folks, right? Yeah. And I have learned so much personally and professionally through this series primarily, and met some great people. And I'm just amazed at the staff that's out there, the professors, and just what we talked about, the cross-pollination, if you will, of departments and the startup businesses and so forth, and how they help, take the music department to a different level and so forth. That's why we tell these stories, the experts.
That's great, and I think there's a lot of good stories, I'm sure.
Yes.
About Eastern programs working across the table with others,
Right.
and collaborating and building new things and doing amazing things.
Setting a great example for students, because more and more, I think, as they get out into that community out there, as some of us out there call it, the real world, where you have to show up on time and all the other things that go with it. To be able to get into meetings and work together as groups, because when you look at what are people looking for, they're looking for people that can stand up for their convictions and so forth, but contribute to a group and move the whole group forward. And you're setting that example for students, because that's where we're going to be successful as a community, not just Spokane, I mean as a country, is that when we can work together and solve problems.
We hope to be able to do that, and I think we all hope to be able to foster an environment in our classrooms where people can express their opinions and reasonably disagree.
Yes.
But I really focus on that reasonably disagree. And that's really perfect for law. I don't think one has to look farther than maybe the Supreme Court as an example. 9 justices, and they often split, 5-4, something like that. Not always along the lines one might expect.
No, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah. But if they can disagree, and usually it's reasonable disagreement, I think that's a good model to aim for. And there needs to be that space.
Yes.
But I hope that students and others do their best to become well informed. So
Yes.
read appropriately from appropriate sources and so forth, and think about things. And we do that in our classes. And yeah,
We did it recently on the 19th of January out at the Catalyst Building, where we had about 18, 19 people, including Dr. May, who opened the program and welcomed everybody to the Catalyst Building. It's called Beyond Politics, and it was a 2-hour program. The first hour was, okay, most of the rhetoric that's really out there is coming from the far left and the far right. But 80% of us agree on most of the issues. We may not totally agree on how you solve it, but 80% of us can and should be talking to each other and working together. So we did that for the first hour. The second hour took on homelessness and the issues, and
Sure.
they're the two sides. We can identify the two sides, and they're both right, and both wrong in some ways. But we're going to do another one at the Catalyst Building. We just confirmed it yesterday.
Nice.
Coming up on, and the topic is going to be the new county commission,
Okay.
which has gone from 3 to 5 of commissioners, and what that means. It's a different way to vote for your commissioner.
Right.
Now before it's 5 and instead of 3 and so forth. But the fact is, and we heard it loud and clear that day, is that most of us can talk with each other. And I may not agree with you 100%, but I want to hear your point of view. Okay? And we need more of that.
we do, Ken.
And it starts in the classroom, because that's the vulnerable age. It is.
It's important to be able to have discussions about difficult things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And everything you're talking about is important. Absolutely. It all has a place, and it all should be discussed. And I hope we can find appropriate solutions for all these things.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, again, I come back to climate change, global warming, whatever term one wants to use.
Right.
If we don't get that right, none of these other things long
Matter.
term, they
Yeah.
won't matter long term. They won't. So that has to be the issue at the forefront. It has to be on the agenda all the time as a point of discussion. These other things too, there can be room for them there, obviously, but climate change is such a, it's the crisis of our time. That's not an understatement.
Okay.
But the door's not closed. There's hope, and we hope that by developing this new degree,
We get smart about it.
well, we hope to help advance that discussion and advance those solutions. Yeah,
Is it getting good support on campus?
it's got great support.
Good.
And it's early on.
Yes.
So I'd say to develop a new degree like this, again, I've been there a long time, right?
Yeah.
And it's the first, while over time, part of our jobs as professors is to revise curriculum and so
Sure.
forth. And we do that, and we've done that regularly.
Right.
That's part of the deal. But to develop a new degree, this is the first
That's a
one
whole different undertaking.
It's the first one I've seen, and I'm really proud of our faculty and the efforts they made to develop this. It took a lot of time to develop it, and then to pass all of the bureaucratic requirements to get it. It takes, it's a deal. It's a gauntlet.
I imagine.
Yeah, but we had great support from President May, as well as John Anderson. He's the current provost, and he was the dean of our college at the time, and he has been a big supporter, and he still is, of this new major and the program, broadly speaking. So we've had important administrative support, faculty support. I believe students are interested. It's early, so we are open for majors and so forth. And we're getting the word out about this new major, and I'd really appreciate it if.
Does this happen around other universities, or I get the feeling you're kind of on the cutting edge.
It does happen to an extent with some universities
Okay.
here and there, but it's not easy to do anywhere.
Right.
And this definitely is a leading effort.
I'm hearing that a lot about Eastern, that we really lead the pack in a lot of areas.
I think people would be surprised, maybe it just what Eastern's up to. And they're involved in a number of good things, promoting good change.
Yeah.
And they're changing as well to adapt and fit the circumstances of the day.
Yeah.
So like to tackle climate change, for example, and these other things that you mentioned, like with the next politics talk you're talking
Right,
about,
right.
with the change in local politics and the commission board and how it's going to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Have I left out any really important questions that I should be asking of you?
Boy, that's a tough one, Kent. I guess.
Or do we have that kind of time?
Right. Yeah, it's. I could talk about Eastern's programs and my department's programs for a long time. That's true.
Yeah.
But I think if members of the community are interested in fighting climate change, and if they know of students who may be looking for a program to combat climate change from a political science or a policy perspective,
We got it right here.
we've got it right here
Yeah.
with this new degree, and it feeds well into programs that people often don't know about, like the Masters in Urban and Regional Planning
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't even know that exists, and it's an amazing, it's a fantastic program. And it has a very good job placement rate, and they're important, meaningful, well-paid, they're good jobs.
Yes, yes.
Likewise, with a public administration program, that could be a good option for a number of students.
Right.
As well as our political science degrees. And I didn't even mention teaching outright.
Yes.
So maybe that's a good place for me to end, is that
Yeah.
I think the political science degree in any of these major options could fit well into a teaching career, either K through 12 or beyond.
Right.
So there's just so many possibilities, and there's hope, I think, in with this degree and with the approach that Eastern's taking.
Yeah.
So again,
I'm really very proud of Eastern for what it did for my daughter and so forth, but to have it here in the Spokane area, Cheney, yes, I know. I know it's an hour out there and 20 minutes into Spokane. I've heard all that story and so forth, but to
Yeah.
have it here in the community and looking at what's new and what's on the horizon, not just teaching the same, but thinking ahead, because our students are. In many cases, I don't know how many professors we've had in that started out like you as an attorney and so forth, and then you get excited about other things because you take another class or you do this and so forth. And that's what higher education is about, is to explore, and you'll find things.
It is, as well as to help students prepare for their futures.
Focus, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so they develop a number of skills and further develop them while they're in college, but seeing them go on to graduate school in some
Yeah.
cases, or get into their careers, and then hearing it from them later on, they go on. Eastern grads, there's so many, I'm sure there's so many listening to this, and they do so many important things in our community.
I hear a lot of my favorite professor was.
Yeah.
And we go through life with that, don't we? We remember.
Yes, we do, and it's a privilege, really.
Yeah.
I think for all of us who have the chance to teach.
Yeah.
And there's, even though the science on things like environmental catastrophe, I'll say, is awful, there's a chance, if we change the policy, to save things and make things better. But that's true for any of the problems that you
Yes.
brought up today.
Homelessness, whatever.
I was just going to say
isn't
that.
Isn't it true? Yes.
Absolutely. So if we're able to sit down and talk,
Yes.
hopefully we can find enough areas of agreement to figure out a plan
Right.
to go forward and make things better.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Kent, thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for the new program and new opportunities for a lot of the students will come from this area and for that opportunity here too. So the best to you and your program.
Well,
All right.
thank you very much, Kent. And
Keep on teaching, okay?
I hope to for another 26 years.
Okay, that works. That works. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to think how old I'll be then. Okay. But anyway, thank you very much, Jim. Good to have you here. And thanks for watching Experts at EWU. I didn't want to say it on the air.